So once again, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to session 3 out of 5 sessions on the business strategy and HRD. And here we are. Yes, we are. This is our third session together, and I love this subject. In fact, I've now reached a point that there are 2 subjects which I like very much to teach. One is this one because it's very close to my heart, and the second is on business consulting, which I take for another group somewhere else. So I finished that class today morning from 10 to 12. I was in that class, and I just had a quick bite for lunch, and I rested a little, and I said, let me get back to class. So even I feel sometimes I don't have a weekend. But yesterday, at least I work 5 days a week. So yesterday I had gone for a nice nature walk in R.A. Mill Colony Gardens with a very, very famous environmentalist. So we learned a lot about how nature is, and what we call in business strategy, we will call it external environment analysis. We did a lot of external environment analysis, but through the eyes of nature and through the eyes of so that's what we are going to touch upon today in our session, analysis of the external and internal environment. 2 sessions are going to be there for this one. So this is a third and fourth session. Also will be on the same topic. So today we will deal specifically with external environment. All right. So beginning with the quote of Michael Porter, very famous strategy guru from Harvard Business School, who's written great books like The Competitive Advantage of Nations and so many others. You just have to Google him and you know what a great foundation, seminal thinker in business strategy he has been. So the underlying principles of strategy are enduring regardless of technology or principles of change. It doesn't matter what the language is. It doesn't matter whether it's AI. It doesn't matter whether it is digital roadmaps. It doesn't matter whether it's market share. It doesn't matter what it is, the trend of the moment and or the flavor of the month or whatever. The basic fundamental principles are the same. The same is purpose is to achieve your goals and visions in a planned and concerted manner. And there are many other underlying principles around that. So let's try and understand some of the things. So like we understood in the last time, what is business strategy? And before that, what is the role of HR in business strategy? Today, we are going to get a little bit more familiar. As HR and training and development professionals, each one of you, each one of us, will have to sit on the table and work with people who are creating and developing business strategy so that we can be aligned to their thinking. And if we do not speak their language, if we do not understand what it is they do, then we will be completely lost. So the purpose of today's session, and in fact the purpose of this entire paper one, is not to make you an expert in business strategy, but to make you be able to sit on the table and develop strategy along with business strategy people. So you need to speak the same language, you need to understand their frames, you need to understand what their thinking is. You also need to think strategically. So strategic thinking is about understanding what the external environment is about, macroeconomic forces, industry forces, competitors' activities, what opportunities are coming up, what threats are coming up, regulatory changes, geopolitical aspects of whatever you may be doing, and then internal organization, the internal environment analysis also. So what's going on inside the company? What kind of capabilities we have? What are our supply chain issues? What's the value chain that we use to deliver value to our customers? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What is our position in the world outside? How can we make use of our internal strengths and weaknesses to achieve a competitive advantage for ourselves, or to achieve the vision, whatever our purpose is. So Today, we will be focusing primarily on external environment analysis. Now, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the tools that are used by most organizations. Um, these are standard frameworks with which we look at the external environment. They're very standard conceptual frameworks that we use to look at the external environment. However, not all companies deploy all of these tools. In fact, some companies may not be deploying any of these tools at all. Some may be simply doing a simple SWOT analysis of the world outside, or some may be doing it in a less organized manner. Some will be doing it in a more organized manner. Nevertheless, it helps us to know that there is something called external environment analysis and what do companies typically do. So typically, this one diagram explains to you that if this is your business in the center, this is your business. There are some immediate external factors. So immediate external factors means, okay, suppose my business is located here in Mumbai, where I am. Okay, so what is happening in Mumbai? What is happening in the region? What is the trends over here? What is the employability like? What is employment situation? What is the resource availability situation? Things like power, electricity, things like roads, infrastructure. This immediate external environment. If I have to attract people to work, what are the challenges? This week we have got now in Mumbai the new coastal road. Part of it is being inaugurated, so it's going to reduce and significantly reduce commuting time for companies that are based in South Bombay or for commuters who are coming from South Bombay towards Bandra Kurla or the rest of Bombay to work. So that's immediate external factors. Some things keep changing all the time. Then external industry factors. So industry factors meaning, is it a sunrise industry? Is it a sunset industry? Is there new technology coming in my domain? Is there artificial intelligence coming? Is there what kind of competition there is? What kind of resource availability is it? Is it energy intensive? Is it capital intensive? Is it labor intensive? What kind of industry? Is it dependent on the agriculture or the monsoon? Factor is very important in our industry. So, what is the industry external factors? We have to study everything that impacts us in our industry. And then there are generic external factors, things that are very, very way beyond our control, but still impact us nevertheless. So there could be a war in Ukraine that's impacting us. There could be, sudden closure of the Suez Canal, or my transport through the Suez Canal is not happening, and that makes a big change. There's some geopolitical situation that's getting developed, and flights from here to certain countries are being limited now because of warlike situations. Uh, does my company have sourcing from European nations, and what's the state of the European Union? So all those are some external factors that are beyond my industry. Geopolitics. There could be climate change factors that are impacting me. There could be a commitment to environment, society, and governance goals. So these are all external generic factors which impact my situation. Anybody has any question, raise a hand and I will definitely address it. So we need to know what's going on with the world and our local economy. Suddenly my view has changed. Just a moment. There we are. Okay. So when I'm looking at the external environment, and when a business strategy person is looking at the external environment, we look with different lenses, don't we? A business strategy person is looking at it from maybe a bottom line orientation. Okay, how much money there is, how much market potential there is. A marketing guy will look at what kind of brands exist and how do I create and increase my market share. As an HR person, I also need to have my own unique look at the business strategy, look at the external environment. So I need to know what's going on with the world, our local economy, how will it impact my organization? It's a generic stuff. Then I have to look at HR stuff. How will they impact HR decisions if there is an unemployment rate, if there's availability of talent in the market, or there is a big crunch for talent in certain skills that we require, and any changes in laws that might come that might affect our business, any political concerns that might affect the human resources environment in our business. So for example, there could be some change in the skills that I require. So if I'm saying the construction industry, I might have a requirement for a lot of crane operators, and those crane operators, every time I hire them from some place here and there, from some vocational school, some ITI, from vocational training institutes, then I find they work with me for about a year, they get the experience, and then they all go away to the Gulf because there's a construction boom happening in the Gulf. So how do I create a steady flow of talent for myself, of that skill that I require? How do I create talent pipelines? So if I'm not in touch with the trends, then automatically I will not be able to think strategically for my human resources. And if I don't think strategically for my human resources, then automatically the availability of talent for my company and for my company to achieve the goals that it wants to achieve will not be possible. So all that is important for me to know as an HR person. How is my industry growing? I'm going to put up a new plant, say in Gujarat somewhere. Does this kind of industry previously exist in Gujarat? Are these skills and talents available there? If they are not, then how do I make them available? What kind of training I require? And what kind of locational advantages I have? So how is my industry growing? And will my additional and skilled manpower be available in a growth stage? Or is my industry shrinking? Is the industry shrinking? And if the industry is shrinking, how do I cater to the workforce that may become redundant in current roles? How do I outplace people? How do I redeploy people? How do I move the people out of the organization where they're not required to places where they may be required? Do I reskill them? Do I redeploy them? Do I retrench them? What do I do with them? So that's another part of the environment scanning. Some more aspects that HR needs to know. These are very important questions what HR has to answer, and if we cannot answer these questions in HR, then we are not thinking strategically enough. We are just getting too much caught in an ivory tower. So if you're an HR professional, think about these questions for your work and your business and see to what extent you can answer these questions. So, so you need to answer the question, how does the organization fit in the industry when competing for talent? Am I the top paymaster? Can I attract the best talent? Or am I a bottom paymaster? I don't get the best talent. Or I'm a middle level paymaster. I can still get good talent because my organization culture is very conducive. So what are some of how does my company fit in the industry when I compete for talent? Any technological trends that will impact your HR needs, new systems, new techniques. Today, it's getting very difficult to source the right kind of people. Talent attraction is a big challenge. And on the other side, you'll find lots of young students graduating from business schools and engineering institutions and science and technology backgrounds, and they find it difficult to get jobs. Companies are looking for people to fill positions, and students are coming out of the system, and unemployed people are waiting to find jobs. There's some mismatch that's happening, and people are not able to connect each other with each other. Maybe there's a technology that can help connect people with other people. So yes. So how can technology impact my HR needs? The skills of the organization that are needed to be competitive. Do we have the skills? Don't we have the skills? How does the company prepare with competitors in terms of my benefit structure? So some kind of a compensation survey or a wages survey needs to be done. Changes that might be needed to attract and retain talent, because that's the biggest challenge today. Strengths and weaknesses of the company, how they impact HR. So company may have a strength of certain processes. How does that impact HR? Strength of a company is in the capability, in the people capability that we have. We've got a whole bunch of talent that is capable of producing a certain outcome, that's our biggest strength. How does that impact my HR policy? What am I doing to build on that capability? Trends in HR that will impact for the next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and how can we prepare for such changes? How many of you already have a strategy to prepare for artificial intelligence? Do you have a strategy or you don't have a strategy? We need to understand competitive analysis. Ultimately, life is a competitive game, isn't it? Whether you're in HR and you're a milk of human kindness and want to only do good for people, you're a nice person, don't behave in a competitive manner. But yes, life is competitive and you cannot get rid of and wish away competitiveness. You have to remain competitive. You have to find ways to win and you have to find ways to remain on top of things when things happen. So these are a lot of questions you have to ask yourself. Who are my competitors? Any potential opportunities for my business? All these questions have to be asked. What is the market share for each of the competitors? What is their past strategy been like? Suppose I'm Coca-Cola and there's Pepsi. So what has been the strategy of Coke versus Pepsi? For so many years, people have tracked that. When you look at airline industry, for example, you'll find that, okay, I'm Vistara Airlines and my competitors are Air India or even maybe not Air India, but other airlines, Indigo, etc. So these are, how do they behave? What are their strategies? And how can I differentiate myself? How can I make myself more attractive to my customers and more attractive to prospective employees as well? What type of media do my competitors use to market their products? So there's a whole world of management consulting, which is called market intelligence. And market intelligence data, it's like literally like spying, it's like intelligence, like the RAW intelligence or the CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation. All those intelligence is what is really needed to understand what the competition is doing. Otherwise, if you do not know what your competition is doing by way of HR, you will be one of those, they say that three kinds of people. One that make things happen, one that wait for things to happen, and one that wonder what happened. So if you're not in tune with the external environment, then you will be one of those who will wonder what happened. So you don't want to be in that position. So as an HR person, acting competitively vis-a-vis competitors, very important to know what's going on in the world. So here is something called the Porter's 5 Forces model. I began with Michael Porter, and this is Michael Porter's from his book, from his article in Harvard Business Review 79, How Competitive Forces Shape Strategy. So in this, according to this, there are 4 basic competitive forces. The first competitive force is threat of new entrants. At every stage of your business, there will be always some new person trying to enter and grab market share, no matter what business you're in. No matter what business. And what is the nature of this new entrant? Is he offering same products as mine? Is he offering differentiated products? Is he offering updated products? Mine is not so up to date. Mine is slightly obsolete. Is he offering a better technology? Is he offering a better price? So what is my competitor like? So we need to look at what is the competition. Number of competitors, here. What is the time and cost of entry? What specialist knowledge does the new entrant bring? What's the economies of scale, cost advantage? Because the biggest threat is from people who are like me too competitors. I've led the way, I've paved the way, I've done something new and original. My competitor copies what I did and overtakes me in the market. That's very common to happen. It's extremely common to happen. So economies of scale. So sometimes you have what is called a prime mover advantage. If you are the first mover, you manage to grab a big chunk of the market share, but then the competition can easily beat you to it, copy your product and produce equally amount of market share for themselves. Or you can have a me too advantage. If somebody else is creating new innovative product, you follow, say, I also have a similar product, and price it in a way that makes it very attractive for customers. So threat of new entrants. This is important to know. There is a bargaining power of my suppliers. My company has certain suppliers. So, for example, if I'm in the steel industry, I have raw material suppliers. There's requirement of iron ore, there's requirement of electricity, there's requirement of coal, and these are all put together to make steel. Maybe there are many other products as well, but these are the. So, what kind of suppliers do I have? Sometimes the supplies are very limited. So, for example, in steel industry, there are only iron ore mines, and not everybody gets the mining rights. Mining rights are auctioned by the government. And those who have mining rights, they have a competitive advantage because they get the rights to get the iron ore and their raw materials. So, what is the bargaining power of suppliers? If the suppliers are external to you, do they hold you to ransom for supplying to you the stuff that you require? So you need to know these things so that you can start thinking strategically. If you don't know these things, then you won't be able to think in a strategic manner and you will end up being a sitting duck for the competition. What is the threat of substitutes? If people can't use steel, then can they use plastic instead? Or can they use aluminum instead? So, if my product becomes too expensive or too environmentally unfriendly, what kind of substitutes can come in? What is the bargaining power of buyers, my customers? Are they just beholden to me? Are they so loyal to me? I'm the only supplier of the product. So, like for example, for a long time in India, we had only Indian Airlines as the only airlines, and we had no choice but to suffer all that they gave us, by way of service. But now now I say I have a lot more options. So, as a customer, as a buyer, I have a lot of power now. I know where I want to place my money and where I don't want to place my money. Okay, so the number of customers, size of each order, differences between competitors, etc., etc. What's the bargaining power of buyers? And lastly, the fifth force is a competitive rivalry. What kind of game are we playing with the competitor? What kind of playoff is there with the competitors? Cost wise, quality wise, loyalty wise. Competitors sometimes have loyalty schemes that you can have. So you keep coming back to them rather than switch. What is the switching cost? So if companies like airlines do not have frequent flyer miles, it's easy for me to switch. Okay, I don't mind not taking an Indigo and going for a Vistara because at least in Vistara I get to accumulate my points, and Indigo does not offer any kind of frequent flyer miles. So all those are important. Any questions so far? Yes, Preeti?
Yeah, hello, ma'am. I
Hello.
just wanted to understand, like, in the HR team, they need to be with the strategy team, like in Porter's five forces, whatever you explained. So they need to be with the strategy team, or they need to strategize themselves.
Both. Both.
Okay.
Both.
Because
Sit on
all
the
these things,
table.
yeah.
Need to sit on the table when strategy is being evolved so that we can contribute and we can give our input and we can influence. If someone says I want to set up a plant in a place where I can expect there can be a lot of labor problems or labor violence, which does happen, there's a lot of pockets where there's a lot of labor problems in our country, then I was, as an HR person, I'd say, hey, please don't set up a plant there. And one of the big reasons why Tata Nano had to pull out of West Bengal was that there was a pocket of problem there, labor problem, where they were putting up their plant. And that's the whole reason why the Tata Nano project failed, because they did not consult HR in setting up the plant in West Bengal. So if HR needs to sit on the table to decide the business strategy, to influence the business strategy, and it needs to have the credibility that people listen to them. Not only that, within HR, we need to be strategic in our thinking also. So, what are the capabilities of the future? How do I build those capabilities? What kind of leadership is required in the long run? And how do I create that pipeline? Where are my talents? High attrition talent, which is critical to my functioning. Like in construction industry, there are crane operators, which is very high attrition talent. Okay, so how do I create a steady pipeline for myself, by talking to the ITIs and getting people to learn to sponsor a full program. And then, we can create a talent pipeline, we can create talent pools. So as soon as the attrition happens, we can draw upon a lot more talent. So both we have to think strategically for ourselves, and we have to think and have to contribute to the business strategy also. Both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the Porter's 5 forces model. And if there are no questions, we move to the next kind of framework. This is what is called the McKinsey's 7S framework. So as I said in the beginning, these are frameworks and models with which business strategy people look at the external environment. We are only doing external environment analysis, right? And when we look at the external environment, even as HR people, we need to know what business strategy guys are doing and be able to join in that conversation and be able to influence things. And we also need to, so therefore, that the purpose of this entire session and the entire program on paper 1 is to help you sit on the table and talk business strategy with the strategy people, and also to think strategically for yourself. So this is the McKinsey 7S framework with which the external environment is looked at. Some of it is partly internal, partly external. So things like staff, skills, structure is all internal, shared values is all internal, styles is internal, and system structure strategy. So it's part internal, part external. So this is the McKinsey 7S framework. They speak about the S's of this was put in together in a very nice way because people love to have the 7 S's. So structure, what kind of organization structure we have, what systems we have, what strategy we have, shared values, skills, staff, styles, all these are very important to analyze. One of the most commonly used frameworks, most commonly in most organizations, and check if your company is also deploying this framework, is called the PEST framework. It helps to put environment analysis, external environment analysis into certain good, comprehensible frames, which are quite good. So P stands for policy. P stands for policy. So government policy, political stability, corruption, foreign trade. So what's the political environment of the business? Policy and political environment. All these aspects are important, including laws and legislation that impact my business. E stands for economy, which is different from political scenario. Economy is about inflation, interest, income, employment, unemployment. S stands for social factors. So population, growth rate, age distribution, career attitudes, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, safety, emphasis on health and consciousness, lifestyle, cultural barriers, work ethic, all that comes into the social aspects. And then T is for technology. So how technology is evolving, level of innovation, automation, R&D, new developments, new products. So all this constitutes the PEST analysis. Then later on, 2 things were added. E and L were also added because we felt that the PEST was not enough. And it's called the PESTIL analysis. E is about environment because now every company, if it's not environment conscious, then it's not thinking strategically. It's very important to think strategically in order to be aware of what's going on in environment and awareness. So climate, weather, carbon credits, global warming, fossil fuels, all that has to be part of strategy language now. Till now it wasn't, but now it is becoming increasingly important. Pressure for NGOs to be more eco-friendly in working, not to deploy plastic water bottles, to put glass bottles, recyclable, reduce, recycle, reduce waste. reuse where possible. And L stands for legal. So how the legal, because today now a lot of legal compliances are becoming very important, especially when your company is multinational or going across Indian boundaries. The legal part, you don't know, unknowingly, unwittingly, there's some aspect of the law you didn't even aware of it, but you were only doing things what you thought was ethically right, but you have violated some law somewhere in the world. So L is very important, pestle.
Dr. Aneeta, a question.
Yes.
So, doesn't the P and L overlap when in P we are talking about the policies and L we are talking about the legal aspect? So, doesn't it overlap?
Yeah, it does, but legal is more about legal rights and legal laws and compliances, whereas P is more about how things are changing and evolving. So, and you need to be aware of how things are changing and evolving at government policy level, things like bigger picture things. So there is a difference. P is more politics. Like today, if you say that, okay, Donald Trump is going to come back, they're already discussing. You see the news, the international news, they're already discussing. The primary elections, primaries are over, and Donald Trump looks like he's coming back because Biden is trailing way behind. And if Trump comes back, then they're discussing already what will be the impact on the Ukraine war, what will be the impact on the Israel war and ammunition supplies, and what will be the impact. And this can happen before the end of the year because the elections will happen around the corner in America. The whole geopolitical scenario will change. So this, when we talk of P, we talk of the politics and the political environment more, and how it will influence policy. But when we say L, we talk about law and legal aspects and infringement of law and compliances.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah. So I have today for you a best practice interview. And this is one of the good ones. I'm not saying good ones, all of them are equally good, but this is a case of a study of an example of a legal of business strategy and training and development alignment, which is a state pretty close to the ideal situation. Okay, so I want to share with you an interview I did with Bidisha Banerjee. She is the Chief Group Learning and Development Officer of the Wellspun Group. And while I'm showing you the video now, you have a copy of the recording of today's session. At the same time, it's also available on YouTube on this link. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I will. So good morning, friends. I'm today going to be speaking to Ms. Bidisha Banerjee. She's the Group Chief Learning Officer for the Wellspun Group. And she's here with us today. And this is our weekly best practice session that will bring to you the connection between business, strategy, and HR, and specifically learning and development, and how it is so important for learning and development activities to be completely aligned to business. And so Bidisha, welcome to our ISTT diploma program for training and development. Would you like to say?
Thank you, Aneeta. I'm really excited to be here today, and I think every time I go back to a school or a college, business school or a college or an institute as esteemed at ISTT, I think it gives me so much pleasure. And I'm really glad that you're doing this, where you're also getting a view from the industry experts, because I think that's usually something that is the missing piece in this whole. And I think this is a very different and experiential way of learning. So thank you for having me over, and I'm sure this is going to be a great interaction with you.
So Bidisha, my first question to you is, what is the general process by which you decide training strategy for your company? And how do you ensure that these activities are aligned to the organizational direction?
Great question. I think, Aneeta, I've learned in my 2 decades of experience in learning and OD and culture is that the training strategy is probably exactly parallel to your business strategy. So I think one of the mistakes that sometimes HR folks make, that they get very blinkered. They have a blinkered approach to just, doing HR jargons, HR models. But I think what's always worked for me is to be able to understand business really well. So whether I've spent about 8 years in retail. So I remember the first year, I was a keen observer and a learner of business metrics there. What were some of the business models they were following? And now that I'm with Wellspun, it's a conglomerate. It has different business metrics for different organizations. I think to understand that. So to answer your question, I think what and how I devise my learning strategy for the entire organization based on three things. One, of course, the organization values, which I believe are, the founding pillars of, really the soul of the organization. So that this, and of course, is what the organization, what's the purpose of the organization? What are we here for? What is our story to add value into people's life? So a lot of that goes into the learning strategy. And I think which is much more long term. And I think on an annual basis, absolutely looking at business numbers, business, mindsets for that year. So to give you Wellspun's example, it's a conglomerate. We have textile business, we have retail, we have roads, pipes, infrastructure, and even flooring now. So the overarching business strategy across the group was to how do we move from a B2B to a B2C culture? And I think that for me became the theme, along with the values, the value pillars, the vision and the purpose, and then saying that this is what across all our businesses is one common thread that we are trying to achieve. So I would say, as a takeaway from, just to sum up what I said right now, I'd say understand your business, spend time really deep thinking into how would you there mobilize your strategy for the year. What long-term strategy, which is a reflection of your values and your vision. And of course, I think strategy today, another tip I want to give everybody is that, all businesses had a certain strategy before COVID, but you have to be agile and be able to adapt and probably change your strategy as we move. So I think the other thing that I'd also want to tell learning and HR professionals that you have to be able to change the wheels of a moving car. So be agile. So one, it is great to have a strategy in place, but also keep your eyes open. See if the business perspectives have changed, business priorities have changed, and how would you thereby align your strategy with business on a continuous basis.
Wonderful. So now to get a little bit more specific, could you tell us some best practices on any one business strategy scenario that your organization may have faced, and what adjustments you made to align your learning and development plans to fit into the directions that are set?
Again, great question, Aneeta. And I think it's just going to be about what I just spoke earlier. Like I said, interestingly, Wellspun is a conglomerate. So being in a group role, it allows you to actually navigate different businesses, understand different businesses. So one such new business that Wellspun has ventured in the last 2 years was a business of flooring. So it's Wellspun Flooring Limited. They have a huge setup in Hyderabad, and it's a 350-acre plant. And the difference in that is that all this while, Wellspun was really known for its product. But the flooring business is so unique because if you see the players in the market in India, it's probably just a Nitco tiles that exist. But nobody has a setup wherein you have the entire production, state-of-the-art facility, everything being manufactured and made in India. So this plant offers state-of-the-art facility. It has machines from Europe, Germany, Australia. Now, while you can get your processes and machines in place, I think for any business to thrive, you need great processes, and of course, you need great culture and people. And of course, to do that, you need to have a certain sort of a mindset to achieve your business targets. Now, one of the challenges that we faced as a business in Wellspun, typically, now for the time that we've existed, our focus has always been B2B, right? And our focus has never really been B2C, because we work in textiles with the Walmarts and Tesco's of the world, whether in the road project, the government of India really is our client. In the pipes business, it's again, we're supplying it to somebody. So we've never really interacted with the consumer directly. So which made us always very focused on SOPs, product, efficiency. But when it comes to understanding consumer needs, looking at probably having empathy for the final user, did not exist as a culture in Welspun. So interestingly, when we started this project with WFL, or the Welspun Flooring Project, the Apex members or the steering committee members, they actually came to us and said, hey, we are facing this challenge because a bulk of our people are people who worked in Welspun in different businesses. So they are technically very sound. They're very loyal to the organization. But where we are lacking is, I think, their mindset of to be able to understand the consumer, because all they can think, breathe, and dream is the product or the tiles, right? And we're not able to connect with them and tell them that, how, unless we picture the consumer and their pains, we're not going to have a story where we're going to meet our targets as sales numbers. And I think that's from that conversation onwards, of course, the entire learning team, or my entire team, we got into a conversation, we got into a diagnostic, and we attempted to start an intervention where, right from the Apex team members to the last person on the floor, we told them a story of how we did a workshop on how do you change your mindset towards looking at customers. So we spoke about concepts of design thinking. We spoke about, having where empathy and the consumer stands in the middle. And we, of course, used in sales, because it's a large sales organization, because you're selling your flooring, you're selling your ideas. We spoke about storytelling as a tool to sell. So, and I think the difference, Aneeta, was, when you try to change people's mindset about from product to consumer, it's very easy. It sounds very easy to be done on a presentation, but I think it takes a lot of time. It has its own gestation period, because people are not able to see it. They don't see the value of it, because they have come from a school of thought that says, hey, the product is the king, and the consumer will take whatever I give them. So I think when we started working with the Apex, and I still remember this so vividly, there were a group of at least 15, 20 of them, all vice president and presidents and above. And I think the one thing constantly as a feedback from the entire team saying that, how is this going to matter? How is it going to impact our business numbers? All we need to do is a great product and people will come to us. I think from that mindset to say that, hey, let us understand what the consumer wants. When you sell flooring today, one of the first thoughts that come to your mind is that you don't want anybody to really look at coming to your house. It's going to take days. But how do you address that pain of the consumer? So that's when they came up with a compelling story saying that, our outlook is going to be that within just 3 hours, we can redo the entire flooring of your house. So when we moved the focus from saying that, the quality is so great and the product is, durable, it's, sustainable, to the concept where, what is your biggest pain? Today, for you to do up your house, you can still do your walls, you can do your furniture, but most people don't touch the flooring. Once they do it up, it's like forever there. Right. So the compelling story went to them saying that, you can do the flooring within 3 hours, go watch a movie and come back and your flooring will be changed. I think when we shifted that focus to saying what the product was, to really understand what the consumer's pain was. So not only just the product story during sales, but the advertising campaigns, the social media presence, all of it carried the theme of B2C, or to talking to the consumer directly. And I think in terms of metrics and numbers, we were struggling, Aneeta, to be very honest, the first and a half, the first year and a half, because to meet our sales targets, even though having such a compelling product, where you can do soft tiles, hard tiles, we were struggling to meet our numbers. But through this intervention, where we started with workshop with the senior leaders and the middle managers, to the sales team, to the operations team, it took us an entire year to work with them. And today, after 2.5 years, the tables have completely turned. We're overbooked. And, we have consumers across the world, whether it's US or Germany or Europe or India. And people are fascinated, of course, with the product quality. But I think what they talk about is the service and the after-sales service and the consumer connect. And we used technology in a large way. So we all had, we'd given everybody a tab and everybody showed the entire product. They could actually take your house, put up a 3D model and, show how the flooring would change. So I think, when you talk about any culture intervention, it's never in isolation of just doing a workshop. it's very important to be able to lay out what are the stakeholders that can get influence. Of course, one is the leadership team. How will the sales team translate it? How will it translate into the product being sold better by the feet on street? How will the operations team, go back with quality inputs from the sales team and make it better? So I think we had these metrics very clearly defined for us when we started. We said the sales has to increase by so much. The complaints that we are getting will need to come out by X percentage. The kind of service feedback that we're getting from 3 should get to a 4.5. So I think when we started this intervention, two things. We were very mindful that it takes time. So we had a vision of 2.5 years, and we clearly made these metrics. It was part of their business strategy. So the entire intervention, every quarter we would meet and we would talk about where we are moving, how close is it from where our target was. And we realized that, just coming together, brainstorming, talking about problems, talking about how this culture shift and mindset started having impacts in business, right? So we see the numbers today and the numbers speaks for themselves. And like I said, we're overbooked. We don't have as many complaints. We have clients reaching out to us from across the globe. And as a byproduct, the team is super engaged, Aneeta. They're super engaged. They're happy. We can see the energy and the vibe as soon as you move to the Hyderabad plant. And I would love to invite you, one day to come and see the state-of-the-art facility, but also interact with the people. Like the energy that I saw 2.5 years back to what I see now, you can feel a sense of achievement that they carry with each other. So
this is an amazing story that you're just telling us, and it's all real. And so much importance that HR and learning and development, what an important role it has played in the success of this particular business venture. And not only did you tell us what you did and how you did it and where it all began, but you also showed us how the metrics, etc., have changed. And I think the most important lesson that we have derived from you is that training is an investment. When you start doing the training, you're not sure whether it's going to pay off or not, but you have to invest in faith. And it's taken you 2 years long training effort for you to recover the return on that investment. And the return is not just in terms of sales metrics and customer satisfaction indexes, which are definitely important, but it's also in terms of employee engagement and motivation and the entire vibe and the culture of the organization. So it's an amazing story, and I'm sure the participants of the ISTD program are going to benefit. A large audience is going to benefit from this. And I'd like to close now, but I have one very, very brief question. We're already shooting ahead of time. But what are the small adjustments you might have made, in the COVID scenario, post-COVID scenario, in all these efforts that you're making? Very briefly, please.
Yeah, so I think for us, some of the learning interventions or some of the conversations have become much more individual. So when I say we used to do trainings probably for larger cohorts, we realized the power of having smaller cohorts whenever you're doing a learning interaction. So maybe I think one I would say is that because it's virtual, most of the work that we're doing virtual, but if you have just 10 people, you can have them all on screen, have them on video. And I think the whole power of learning socially, learning from peers, learning from experiences, and not doing any intervention which is spread over 2-3 hours. I think people maximum have the bandwidth to listen to you for 40-45 minutes. But even in that 45 minutes, what we do is any intervention that we're doing, we talk about the concept for the first 10-15 minutes, and the next part of the time is actually involved in discussions and debate and learnings and application. So I think that's what we're doing, differently.
So you brought the same interactivity that
Yes.
you would have in a face-to-face conversation, but done it through media. It's not a one-way, webinar that's being beamed out. It's
Absolutely.
an interactive peer learning kind of model.
Absolutely.
So that's how you use digital technology to adapt your learning and development efforts. So on behalf of ISTD Vidisha, let me say a very, very warm and heartfelt word of gratitude to you. And I do hope that we will see more of you on this forum. And any one last word that you'd like to say?
I think for me, always, I'd like to say two words. I always say stay curious. I think that's a trait that has always helped me in my life, in my career. I think the minute that we feel that we know it all is where it begins. So I think stay curious, stay safe. And of course, that will keep you happy. So thank you, Aneeta, for having me over and wonderful interaction. Wishing all the students listening in today all the very best in your journey for learning.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell me, did that come across properly, the sound and all? Just tell me in one shot. I had a little doubt about the sound.
Yes, we are able to.
Yes, ma'am.
Very clear, ma'am. Very clear.
So you can see the power of alignment, of
Very effective.
training development effort with business strategy. You can see the power. The whole business turned around because the skills they
Ms. Banerjee was very articulate, ma'am.
yeah, the skills they needed were not available, and then training made them available. As simple as that. And it's very easy to do that alignment piece. It's much more difficult to keep doing training without aligning to business objectives and keep on and on and on and on and on and on doing training, but it reaches nowhere. It's just transaction. It's just a tick mark that you're doing. I've done this training. I've done this training. I've done this training. But it's it just requires a good strategic thinking. I hope that each one of you today make a pledge for yourself that whenever you do training as a training manager or as a trainer, as a freelance trainer, or in any context, is always got a larger purpose, a more strategic purpose than just simply, a transactional, let me do a good workshop and a nice topic and something everybody will be very happy to listen to and give me good feedback. That's not what training is about, frankly. Training is about creating and sustaining change. And if we are not going to be doing that, then we will be nowhere. So that was Bidisha Banerjee, Chief Group Learning and Development Officer. You will find the write-up on this case study in your course material also. If somebody can just briefly scan through and say what page number, then you can just add the page number there. I don't put the page number on the slide because every time there's Xerox it, some page up and down happens for some reason or the other. So it's never the same. So I have a little case study discussion for you now. And this is a small case. First, I'm going to request somebody to read this case, one of you, and whoever volunteers would like to read this case. Then we'll put you into breakout rooms and discuss the case, and then we debrief on that. So anyone willing to read this case?
Yeah.
Hello.
Dr. Mayuri, so may I?
Yes, Mayuri, please. Since yours fastest finger first, yes, please read.
Okay. Right. The case study is all about the marketing department of your company was finding it difficult to fill open job positions in a timely manner. Added to it was a high level of attrition in sales force, which consisted largely of young graduates looking for short-term employment to fill the gap before going for higher studies. Loss of revenue as a result of positions vacant were causing stress to the business bottom line and achievement of strategic goals for sales and market share. The time to fill open positions was taking too long. There was no clear path forward for open positions and getting them filled. The marketing had decided to speak to talent acquisition team about the need for quicker turnaround for staffing process. They started documenting various stage points, including the time to approve requisitions and the time taken at the various stages of the recruitment process. The TA had ramped up networking with staffing agencies and adjusted the interviewing process to address time and interviewer proficiency. The members of the TA team were more aware of turnover, staffing metrics, and the interviewing process. The time to fill open positions were reduced dramatically. Training was revised to include a new onboard orientation process for new hires to assist with getting them to work faster with more general knowledge upfront. First one is briefly, okay, the questions are briefly outline the strategy adopted by a TA head to align the business needs. What do you think can be done in addition to these efforts? The second question is, what are some of the potential pitfalls that lie ahead?
Excellent. Dr. Mayuri, I wish your sound had been a little clearer, but I think everyone's got the gist of it. We were all reading and listening to you at the same time. So, two questions at the end, very clear. And I'd like you to move into breakout rooms and discuss these. So let's make our rooms here. We are 63 participants, so we should have 6 breakout rooms. No, 6 is too much. 8 breakout rooms. So please go into your breakout room, take a screenshot of this case study. I'll put a screenshot in the chat window also. And you have 15 minutes to discuss. It's 3 o'clock now, and at 3:15 we will close, right? Please join your rooms, your breakout rooms. Those who haven't joined yet. Sneha, Karishma, Krupa, please join your breakout rooms. Welcome back. Anamitra, you raised your hand. What is it? Hello?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I thought you were on mute. That's why. That's why. Nothing specific, ma'am.
Okay.
It's okay now.
So everybody is back. The rooms are closed
Yes, ma'am.
and everyone's back. So we've got 10, 15 minutes now for discussing. So let's take, we were 8 groups, no? Let me take in the middle group number 5, just randomly. Group number 5. Who was in group number 5?
It's us. So
It's
Aneeta,
us.
yeah.
Anika, Srinu, Ravi, Mayuri, and Vandana.
So one person from group number 5, please tell me the answers that you have to question number 1 and 2.
Yeah. Hi, ma'am. We are group 5, and yeah, the first question is briefly outline the strategy adopted by the TA head to align to aligned to business needs. What do you think can be done in addition to these efforts? Actually, what efforts they have done was first they have documented, then they have requested, approved few requisitions, then recruitment process has started, and they have hired few staffing agencies also so that they get good number of candidates. So here in addition to these, what can be done in the company is that instead of depending on the external staffing agencies, they have to actually train the recruitment staff so that the interview process or the documentation or the requisition process is like reduced, and they get good quality candidatures from the colleges or from the people. And I think Ravi would continue.
Ravi, what else do you have to add to what Mayuri has said?
First of all, I mean, what she said is training the team rather than depending upon the existing hires or agencies. So basically, I mean, we are dependent on the external agencies who might not be really aligned to the vision of the organization. So as us, I mean, we can actually strategically plan and align those positions because we work with the organization, right? And then branding. So branding is also very important. The reason the new, I mean, the people, the graduates, so they might feel, okay, is this the organization I'm working for? Should I work for this organization? What does my career ladder path might look like? I mean, if I'm working in this organization. So the organization can probably invest in the marketing by, to do an employer branding.
Yeah.
And they can actually start improving on the
Lots of things to improve the quality of talent acquisition. Right?
Pardon? Yes,
There's
yes,
lots
yes.
of- Yeah, okay. So a lot of initiatives that both of you are suggesting is to improve the quality of
Additional efforts, I mean, that basically enhances this.
Yeah,
to
in
ramp
the
up the
interview
talent
process.
acquisition.
Yeah, in the interview process also to reduce the time and interview proficiency, we have thought that they have to add this virtual interviews and also written tests before getting into the interview process.
So to have a more robust talent acquisition
Correct.
process.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Think strategically. Anything else from your group? Otherwise, we'll move to number 7.
Pitfalls would be pitfalls would be actually told by Anika and Vandana.
So can I ask group number 7 now to come in? Group
I'll
number-
just quickly, if I can mention the pitfalls that we discussed in group 5, just one line.
Okay.
Group 5. Yeah, so the case study mentions that there is a high level of attrition because they're hiring young graduates who are looking for short-term employment. So maybe the organization needs to look at this approach again. And in order to reduce the attrition, they can go for maybe some contractual bonds after hiring, wherein once they join, they need to stay for a couple of years before they can move on. If possible, they need to look at it from a legal aspect also. Also, they can do certain sort of analysis about how the competitors are hiring and retaining talent. If there is something that can be learned by doing a competitive analysis in this market space with other industries as well. That's it.
I would like to add one more point in question number 1. Actually, we can improve the talent acquisition department. Like we can create the SOP, standard operating plans where we can create particular tag for closing the positions timely. As we can provide the training to the internal staff, internal recruiters, but as well as we will have to create a particular tag for closing the position within time, as well as we should adopt the latest technologies for closing the positions. Like multiple tools are exist in the market, like apart Naukri and LinkedIn, now multiple tools are there, like GitHub and other tools. So we should go with those tools also that are exist, and so that we can close
Vandana,
the
what group
positions.
are you in? Vandana, what group are you in?
Yes, ma'am.
What group are you in? Which group number?
Ma'am, group number 5.
Same group number 5 is only continuing. Okay. I wanted to hand over to the next group. Thanks a lot, Vandana. So you are saying basically the standard operating procedures
Yes,
also
ma'am.
need to be looked at, and the processes of recruitment need to be looked at, and create more robust processes, look at alternative platforms to recruit from.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am. Yes,
Thanks.
ma'am.
Next, group number 7. Anyone from group number 7 willing to come up? I wanted group number 7. I'm just doing it randomly, because they're
Yes,
not.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We were discussing, and I would like to Ashish to say, because he was the one who came up with a solution, which all of us almost said yes to. So, Ashish, would you like to come forward and speak? Hello.
Sneha,
Yes,
Sneha,
ma'am.
you're speaking now. So why don't you speak on behalf of your group?
Sure, ma'am. I
Why
would love to do that.
because I saw that you were not really in your room. There was one Sneha which was outside also.
Okay. Sure. So what we thought was that we should be taking a look into both the external and the internal models as you were teaching us. So with reference to that, one strategy would be to internally train and develop the existing working force that we have in the sales team. And the second option was to hire people who is not aspiring to get into a higher academic strata immediately. So basically, we are looking for frontliners who will be staying with the organization over a period of time, say 2 to 3 years, and then they will think of jumping, either jumping the organization or going on a sabbatical for future learnings. Now, here again, as an organization, we can motivate these people, wherein we will be doing the upgradation for them.
Okay.
Whatever courses they would like to take, maybe the organization, depending on their performance, can fund that, can sponsor that, which will be a motivational act, and this way we will be able to retain talent as well.
Okay.
And the fourth point that we discussed was obviously training the HR as well, so that while they are hiring, they are doing it in a more strategic manner, keeping the organizational objectives in mind, and then doing it, because we saw that there is a gap because the hiring was being delayed and the attrition rates were very high. So, in order to gap that, the TA needed to be trained first so that they will be able to overcome this gap that was being created within the organization and be able to hire more people, new talent, fresh talent, based on the requirement of the organization.
So while group number 5 has spoken mostly about the need to make a more robust talent acquisition process, what I heard you saying, Sneha, differently from group number 7, was that you need to also look at targeting different kind of people, not the ones who would be moving on every 2 years. There people with more permanent kind of things, like maybe postgraduates or people looking for proper jobs.
Correct.
I heard you talking about creating because uh, to build the engagement of the employees.
Yes, ma'am.
To build the engagement of the employees so that retention strategies can be built in. And third thing I heard you say was to create more avenues and channels and pipelines for recruitment, so that we have more coming.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to call upon group number 1 in case you have something different which has not been covered so far. Group number 1, who can be this?
Group number 8 could have something different.
Okay, group number 8, Anamitra. I know you put it on the chat also. You wanted to be in queue. Okay, group number 8, Anamitra, tell me what is it? If it's different from what group number 5 and 7 have said so far.
Deepti ma'am, can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, what I noticed was there was a perceptible gap. There was a perceptible gap between the business strategy alignment and the HR and the talent acquisition team.
Yes.
The organizational values and the cultures were not getting transmitted down to the talent acquisition team, which was leading to higher attrition and subsequently affecting the company's bottom line and the sales force attrition. This is number one. This should have, which was the whole point of your lecture, that business strategy and HR should be on the same page. It seems they were not on the same page over here. Second point is that we should partner with the primary source of our talent acquisition, that is the colleges, so that the visibility is there and the brand buildup is there right from the start. The third point is that we should have a clear orientation and the roadmap for the sales force, so that they know exactly from the orientation and the induction stage about the company culture and where they stand in relative to that culture and that orientation and the values of that organization.
That has been done already. The onboarding has already been created by HR.
Yes, ma'am. That is what our feeling was. Okay. Deepti ma'am, would you like to add something more?
So you're the way
you covered everything, Anamitra.
So if what you have said is that there is a need for us to now also communicate organizational values and work closely so that such kind of situation can be tackled with on many fronts, not just through better processes, but also just to align strategically and thinking and values wise how we will partner with each other, right?
Yes, ma'am. It takes about 6 months to align a personal value and the organizational values in the sales force, and for them to understand what actually the organization stands for. That's the ground level experience.
So what you are also perhaps hypothesizing and assuming is that the sales force turnover is very high, not only because we are hiring young people who want to go for higher education and therefore they leave, but we are also not giving them a valuable and meaningful engagement with the organization and enough learning opportunities within the organization. So the work culture has to be more values driven and more membership driven so that attrition does not happen, and it can take time to achieve that. Great. I think if we put everybody's thoughts together, all the 3 groups that have discussed, we have come up with quite a good comprehensive analysis of this case study. And I do hope there are lots of learnings for everybody. Tactical learnings as to what things we can do by way of having more platforms and having more, processes and SOPs in place, and onboarding processes, and also strategic things in terms of aligning more with the values and culture, building retention strategies, and building strategies to build employer brands. So it's both operational and strategic solutions that we have seen so far. So thank you so much. Very good thinking. I'm just made a summary of it. If you want to listen to the summary of what I just said, please listen to the recording one more time to get to know the true value that this case has actually revealed. Okay. This is a case study I'm going to be sending out to you. It is about 5-10 pages long. This is homework. Okay, this is now homework, which is an individual homework I'm giving to everybody. Read the case study. I'm going to be putting it on the email today itself, and I'll send it to 1 or 2 of you who will put it on your WhatsApp group as well. This is on HRM systems reforms at Matsushita. It reads like a storybook, so please do read it. Answer the questions at the end and come prepared for a case discussion. You'll do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, definitely, ma'am.
Homework is important.
Okay, ma'am.
Homework is
Absolutely.
right.
Agree with you, ma'am.
Because we cannot have just 1.5 hour interaction and say that this is all the learning there is on business strategy. No, there are additional readings, there is additional videos, there's some case studies, and there's homework. Then only learning becomes complete. Otherwise, learning is very, very limited.
Yeah.
Noted, ma'am.
So this is a case study, which is a very interesting case study, which is based on real life. There is also article which I'm sending, the Effective HR Business Partner by CRF Research. Come prepared with your questions. And there will be one short quiz on the article, on that article. Very short, fun quiz, not graded, not evaluated. It's not competitive, but it will be something that will be fun for you to learn in a different way. All right, that's all for today. Any questions?
Hi, Karishma this side. I just wanted to check with you the handouts or probably the PPTs that you are showing us. I don't know from where to access that and if it's there on the group, if somebody could help me with that. Because the group that we have, only the admin can send messages.
So I had sent it through the office. It's come to you, the presentations. Find out from your class members. I had also contacted one or two of your class members last time because there was a little attrition at the national headquarters in the diploma office. So there was a little gap in communication. So I had somebody from the class also share it with you. I think the name of the person was Alka. Yeah. So please make sure they're on your WhatsApp group.
Ma'am, I had one small question.
Yes.
Ma'am, do you agree with the view that organizational values were not being communicated to the talent acquisition team?
I agree. I agree. There is a lot of disconnect between the way, I mean, otherwise attrition should not be so high. And Salesforce people are blaming the attrition that the youngsters who are coming are not interested in staying here and they move on. You're blaming the external environment for it, but you've not done anything to correct in terms of build any retention strategies and including values education, including building a culture of belongingness, including, motivating. So you have to build a values based culture so that people don't leave the organization.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Salesforce people are playing a blame game. They're shifting the responsibility to the world. That these young fellows, they're only graduates. They come
Basically,
here.
there is a disconnect over there.
Yeah, you're shifting the responsibility to something external, whereas the responsibility is within the sales department. Why they are unable to retain people. Right?
Right, ma'am. Right, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Enjoy your weekend, ma'am, whatever is left of it.
I guess I'm coming over for dinner, so.